We're live.
In
Hello.
theory.
I don't
Hello.
know.
In
Oh,
theory.
I gotta open the Twitch dashboard because we're doing the whole polls thing. That's fine.
Ooh,
I think we're live.
uploading
I see us
myself
on
twice.
Twitch. We're
We're on
definitely live.
Twitch. Whoa,
We're
hey.
definitely live. Hello, folks. Welcome to My Tech, My Rules, the great hacker debate. William, do you want to introduce everything?
All right. So, for those of us just strolling in, we're gonna be doing some fun debates in a second. But before that, let's introduce ourselves. So, if we move on to the next slide, Aaron.
Ooh.
Oh, yay! So, hey, I'm William. I am the data analytics manager at MLH. I use he/him pronouns, and my fun fact is I have never watched Star Wars. Although I am aware of the R2D2 and Chewbacca and all of those references, so I don't think I'm missing anything. But comment if you think I am at a loss or I was deprived as a child or something. I don't know. That's my
The
fact.
question is, how have you managed to never watch Star Wars? Like, did it
I've
just
seen
not?
enough clips of it, so it's like I don't really have an incentive to do like a start to finish kind of thing because I see
Yeah.
the lightsabers, the Darth Vader, the I am your father thing, so I feel like it's all ruined anyways.
See,
I mean, I think people would question otherwise.
I mean,
Let us know in the Twitch chat. Do you think William should watch Star Wars? Yes or no?
the thing is, you're gonna watch 9 films, 10 if you count the other 2, and only like 4 of them are any good. Like,
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. 4 to 6, great. 7 to 9, basically just like a modern version of 4 to 6. Like,
yeah.
it's kind of the same story. There's a few tweaks, but like if you step back and look at it, it's just like it's kind of the same thing. And then you got 1 to 3, but we don't really talk about those.
You don't like Jar Jar Binks? Well,
Not really.
My hot take is Rogue One's the best film.
I didn't like Road One, but anyway, we're getting carried away here.
All right. Hey, I'm Aaron. I'm a software engineer at MLH. Used to be a coach, so used to the whole streaming thing. I use they them pronouns, and I'm a big old av geek. If you like airplanes, things that fly, that's sort of very up my alley. But hey, yeah, that's not a hot take like not watching Star Wars. Where'd Will go?
I did actually add my stuff to the slide, but clearly it didn't get uploaded here. Well, hi everyone. My name is Will. I'm one of the program managers for the MLH Fellowship here at Major League Hacking. I use the pronouns he/him, and the fun fact that is clearly not on the screen here is that I like boats and going on the water. You can find me on Discord at Will from MLH, and my Twitch is a mystery. You'll never know.
One sec. I'm reloading the slides, but we can continue, and then we'll come back and show Will's actual slide. Oh, never mind. Here it is.
Here we go.
There
There we
you go.
go. Wait, I didn't even put the Twitch on there. That'll be why you'll never know. Wonderful.
All right. So, as William, I think you're the moderator. Do you want to
teach us?
Yeah. What are we doing?
So, simple rules. We have 2 debaters, our friends Will and Aaron, obviously, because they are the most qualified people to give their comments on these very controversial, spicy tech topics that we'll be discussing. So it's simple. We bring up a topic. They have 2 minutes each to give a very compelling argument about why their side is better. And then at the end of each round, the audience will vote. So our friend Aaron will set up a poll in Twitch for us to weigh in on who we think was more convincing. And if you have a even more convincing argument yourself, feel free to drop it in the chat. If we go to the next slide, we'll have a little disclaimer for you guys because, you know, we have a whole code of conduct and all that fun stuff. So more importantly, this is just for fun. The views shared in this debate are purely conversational and represent Aaron and Will's pre-prepared comical views on this. This is not MLH saying that you should start your arrays at 0 or 1. Do what makes you happy as a hacker. And if you want to start arrays at 5 and write your code in a way that you increment your array by 5 before you start storing data in it, have fun.
Yeah,
However,
I can fully admit that I don't agree with every take I've been assigned in this.
so yeah, this is not best practices from MLH. Don't go to hackathon saying that an MLH rep told you you should be doing this. Anyways, all right, so a little bonus round to get us warmed up.
Ooh.
Aaron, yep. So demo round. Should arrays start at 0 or 1? I'll take this one. So I'm gonna argue both sides of the coin.
Okay.
Because I have no one else to debate against me. So let's just give an example of what this is going to look like. So, and the argument for one, so in the old days, the keyboards used to start in alphabetical order, right? Like they would go from A to Z. As we would normally, sing the alphabet song, you can find the letters based on their logical position in the alphabet. However, in the typewriter days, people would be typing too fast because they knew where the keys were. This was before the backspace button was invented because this was hitting a hammer on paper, and it would make mistakes very difficult to clean up. So because of that, instead of inventing a backspace concept or coming up with invisible ink or whiteout or literally anything else, corporations at the time thought it would be a better idea to make the keyboard more difficult to use so you could type slower and have less mistakes. So now we have the QWERTY keyboard. Why did I waste all of this time explaining the nuances of a keyboard?
I didn't want to say it.
Because that is a classic example of technological lock-in, or tech debt, as we would call it. We think something is the best way to go just because the technology of the time has locked us into that perspective. And that's the same thing with arrays. We have just been told that arrays should start at 0 because that's how it is. And that's what we learn in our textbook. Because for some reason, a computer starts counting at 0. But Aaron, when you start counting, what do you start counting with?
0, obviously.
You start with 1, exactly. You count from 1 and you keep going up. The same thing for if you're doing literally anything else. Unless you're in the UK where floors for some reason start at 0. In most
that makes
of the
perfect
world,
sense.
What's up?
It makes perfect sense. I don't know what you're on
no
about.
one counts from 0. We count from 1. We say 1, 2, 3. I don't say 0, 1, 2. Oh, I have 3 objects, but I started from 0. So it's technically this one is the first and this one is the 0th. Like there's no such thing as 0th.
Yeah, there is. There's 0 things. There's like the 0th person in line, the person at the end of the line. Like you're waiting in line. The 0th person is proceeded beyond the line.
No, the 0th person means there's no line. No one came to buy the Swatch today. And that is not a rant about me not being able to buy the Moon Swatch. But anyways, point is, that's the argument for 1. And then the argument for 0 is that we've just been so mechanically wired to think that arrays should start at 0 because that's what we were taught. That's what it should start with. And yes, 4 not found. If you want to start with 3, do what makes you happy, because remember, this is not in any way an MLH best practice suggestion. And that's my rant. Now we understand how the rules go. Quick pause. Let's ask the chat. What do you think array should start with? 0 or 1?
Let me ask it.
All right, let's get that poll fired up.
All right. It's up. Going for 1 minute. You can... Ooh.
Am I right in saying that this poll is exclusively available on Twitch?
It is. If there's enough people not on Twitch, we could use straw poll instead. But let me...
Everyone is watching on Twitch, apparently. So
although Adam has been replying from YouTube, so maybe that counter's just wrong.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam.
Here we go. And here's the live poll results for those that aren't on Twitch.
Can you zoom us in a tad?
No, sorry. Wait. There we go.
There we go. Okay. 11:57. Nice.
No, there we go.
How do you even vote? I'm such a noob.
I have no idea. I just know you can make them.
Oh, there we go. I voted. Nice. Guess what I voted for when you watch the whole thing shift one direction? It's not obvious at all. Is my opinion irrelevant to you? I
Wow.
didn't say that, Adam.
I think 0-1. Sorry, William. I mean, you're always
Anyway,
gonna lose on this one, right? All right.
Let's get into it.
Moving on.
Oh,
should you use spaces or tabs? Who's going first?
I mean, I'm on tabs. You're on spaces, but Mr. Moderator, who's going first?
All right. So Aaron, since you started.
I'm gonna start. Okay. All right. I'm on team tabs apparently. So when you're writing your code, right? And you have to indent your Python or indent your Ruby or indent your JavaScript or indent your C++, right? Are you going to go and sit there and hit your space bar 2 times, 4 times, 8 times, right, to go all the way across the page? Think about back in the days when we were a notepad and you didn't have like these fancy tools, right? No, you're going to use the tab character because the tab key is why is William here twice? The tab key, right? It's right there. You're typing your code, you hit tab, it just goes across. No erroneous key presses. I have another really good argument for you. You know, in this age of where we're trying to reduce file sizes, keep things as efficient as possible, right? We're always hearing about bundle sizes with our websites, right? A single tab character is always going to be less data than 2 spaces or 4 spaces or 6 spaces, right? And therefore, tabs are obviously the best solution for indenting your code.
All right.
That's my case.
I'm getting a lot of love for tabs in the comments. But Will, take us home and show us why your perspective is right.
Right, everybody. So, tabs are great, but they're hard to identify when you're looking at a text file. You look at a text file, how do you know if that's tabs or spaces? It's a bit confusing. And if you're anyone like me and you end up using, sometimes you press the space bar, sometimes you press tab, it can be a little bit messy and it can be a bit inconsistent. Now, one issue you might run into as well is if you're a Python developer and you try and write, oh no, not indenting your code with emojis, but anyway, that's a distraction I didn't need. But let's say you're writing your code with a Python code and you need to indent your code. It gets really unhappy if you do a mixture of tabs and spaces. And it's just so much more satisfying having that fine control whether you want to indent by 2 or indent by 4. You just can't do that by tabs. So here's the trick, right? Tabs are cool, but have you ever tried using Visual Studio Code where you can set it so that when you press the tab key, it inserts 4 spaces? And now you will never run into that issue of having that situation where you press the space bar or maybe tabs. And now you never ever have to deal with a compiling error or an interpretation error because you don't even know where the tab is. There you go. Why even have the issue when you could just have your tab key be spaces altogether?
All right. Thank you for your unique perspective, Will. So we have a very hot debate here. Should you just update your editor to make the tab key trick itself into entering 4 spaces, or do you just hit the space key 4 times, or do you just not edit anything and just use tabs consistently? Let's pull up that poll and let the audience weigh in.
There we go. It's live, folks. Twitch.tv/MLH should have the poll up.
All right. Votes
Ooh, controversial. Ooh, seriously?
Wow.
I am surprised.
I should be totally honest. I'm on Team Spaces in my day-to-day life.
Wow. I'm upset, to be honest. I'm not sure we can continue. Wow. Do you want to know who voted for Spaces? It was me. Wow. Do you want to know who voted for Spaces? It was me. I can hear myself.
Wow. Ooh. That's I fixed that. That was my bad. I tried to. I unmuted my Twitch tab, and apparently I'm now playing Twitch through my microphone. Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Reminds me of that one Silicon Valley episode. Exactly. Apart from Aaron and I aren't exactly going to hate each other and never talk to each other again because, wow, I can't believe it. 10v2.
That's impressive. I don't know. Was my argument just that good, or did we have no chance? Everyone just decided that that's
My
the way to
argument was
go?
just bad. I thought mine was pretty good, but anyway.
Your argument's the argument I would have made. But hey ho.
Round 2, though.
All right, moving on to round 2. So, if we like to code in the daytime, sometimes we like to use light mode. If we're coding at night at 3 o'clock in the morning before a deadline, we might want to use dark mode just for our eyes, you know. But I've actually heard that staring at a screen in darkness actually isn't as detrimental to your eyes as we would think. So, with all that considered, Master William Russell, take us away with your perspective and why.
So, dark mode is clearly just nicer looking, right? You get better contrast with the colors in your text editor, and like you just said, William, yourself, at nighttime, dark mode just generally makes it easier to see your stuff. There's nothing worse than waking up at 3 in the morning to check the time on your phone and it literally blinding you for the next 3 days because you just turned your phone on and the brightness was up. If you're in dark mode, that just wouldn't happen. And the best bit is it saves battery. If you're using an OLED device, such as a mobile phone with an OLED screen, it's not having to like the pixels are just black, they're just off. So it's saving you battery. So you can now your phone lasts longer, your eyes are generally doing better, and you won't end up like me having to wear glasses. This is what happens when you used to be a light mode kind of person. So don't be like me. You know, be a dark mode person. There you go.
So the dark side, is that like a Star Wars reference? You can see I get the references.
Will's got a little book that he's just going through with all the like classic like common things people say about Star Wars. Every time we mention like 2 words that maybe match that, you're like, I can do something there.
See, what he's not telling you is just a little Star Wars joke thing next to him, right? It's indicating when he should make Star Wars jokes based on comments.
Yeah, I have a little joke book next to
There you
me.
go.
Yes. All right. So very compelling argument for dark mode. So should we join dark side or should we join the what's the alternative of dark side?
It's not the light side. I think it's, I don't know. Is it the rebellion? I don't know.
The Republic?
No.
Something like that.
Do they say light side? I don't think they do.
What's the guys in the white outfits that shoot the little lightsaber beams? What are they called?
Stormtroopers.
Stormtroopers. There you go. Yeah, I'm getting there.
All
right.
Shoot the lightsaber beams. All right. Light mode. So when you're outside in the sunlight, right? Like if it's a nice day and you want to go and work on a park bench, right? Definitely used to do this. Back in the day. You'll note that even on your nice laptop screen, you're gonna have a really hard time reading your dark mode IDE. The glare is going to be a problem no matter what you do. And dark mode is just, unless your contrast is insane, which it's not going to be, you're going to have a much easier time seeing your code on a light mode screen. You just are. But I want to make another point, which was that Will was talking about how you can, if you're using a dark mode IDE, right, it saves battery on your OLED displays. Most laptops don't have OLED displays. But like even Apple's fancy mini LED stuff is not technically an OLED. That said, the actual fault here is even if you're using an OLED, most dark mode themes aren't actually black and therefore still turn on the pixels with like a light gray. So that point doesn't even work. But I would make the argument as someone who does I don't actually use light mode very often for my IDEs. What I do prefer is using like the auto switching between day and night. That way it saves your eyes just all day long. But I think light mode definitely has its place and is a strong makes a strong case for itself. I use dark mode for Slack, Discord, and my IDEs. I use light mode everywhere else. Is the honest take.
Everywhere else besides my IDEs.
Yeah, which is what the question's about.
Hey, I use Notepad in light mode.
That's a good point. I do too. I used to use Notepad++ in light mode before I stopped using Notepad++, like 10 years ago.
Notepad++
is that a
has a
comment
dark
on
mode?
which the ID?
I don't think it does.
IDE?
Hmm?
Are you commenting on what's the best IDE to use? We're getting really spicy out here.
Isn't that a
We'll
top
get to that in
order?
a second, though. But before we get to that, let's bring up the poll and let's let the audience decide who's right.
There we go. Oh my god, this is a mistake. So I'm not I'm logged in on the MLH Twitch, which means I can't vote in the poll, but I want to vote in the poll. So I'm like, will my phone let me vote in the poll?
You can vote as MLH. That's what I've been doing. I haven't
That-
voted.
That's why
Oh,
I've
no.
not been able to vote.
Well, I'll let you vote this time. 1 for 1.
Just
Yeah.
log into your own Twitch.
That's why I tried doing. Then Will could hear himself.
Just mute it. You
No,
just mute
I
it.
can use my phone. It's fine.
I think your phone looked like it was in dark mode, though. Can we confirm that?
My phone is in dark mode. I don't have my phone switched.
My phone is officially in light mode.
My laptop switches. My phone does not.
Oof.
There you go.
All right.
See, it's all in light.
Well, there we go.
All right, we have an
Awkward.
overwhelming majority for dark mode.
I don't think anyone is surprised by that result.
So we have a one-way split. It's 1-1, as we say in soccer, for those of us who watch the World Cup.
Did you just call it soccer?
So I did just call it soccer for our friends in
Nah.
the US. Football for everyone else.
Yes, all the correct people in the world.
All the Let me guess, you use Celsius to tell the temperature?
Of course. It's
To tell the
what a weirdo.
temperature. That's
it's 12 degrees C outside. It's actually nice and warm for a January afternoon.
I feel like that needs to be the bonus round. Is it called soccer or football? But question for another time.
All right.
All right. So round 3. What is the best programming language? So first, before we jump into that, let's go to the chat and drop in the programming language that you code in.
This is gonna be spicy.
JavaScript.
We got JavaScript.
Python.
Oh, Python. Java.
Java. JavaScript. Where are my TypeScript fans? C++.
C++.
No one codes in
plus.
TypeScript, Aaron.
Dude, I code. We code in TypeScript. This business codes in TypeScript. What do you mean? Whatever works for you other than Java. Emoji code.
PHP.
Python.
I mean,
C#
PHP is great if you like enjoy torturing yourself.
It's great if you lived like in 2005.
I mean, I learned to like build on PHP to be totally honest, but I haven't
In
touched
2005.
Pretty much. it. 2009, but you know, I type in white space.
Okay.
Lots of. Ooh, I can say the worst is Kotlin.
I quite
That's
like
a hot
Kotlin.
take. That's
I
a
quite
really
like
hot
Kotlin.
take.
Ooh.
I think Adam, the truth is you just haven't programmed in enough languages.
Shout out is to Go. I love Go. Go is a fantastic language.
I like Kotlin.
I
I prefer Kotlin over like Agda.
Java.
Sorry, are you
Assembly language. Ooh.
Do you know what Agda is?
Acta.
Yeah.
I swear I saw on like a Hacker News listing this morning when I was looking for a thing for later. I've no idea what it actually is.
It's a functional programming language that's used for proofs, basically.
Oh, great. What, Scala and Haskell weren't good enough?
Or a camel, none of them. Nah. It's based off Haskell, funnily enough.
Fair. PowerPoint is in fact Turing complete, as is another thing we'll get to later. It's so great for hacking NASA. All right, shall we jump into this debate?
We shall.
Let's do
So
it.
before we jump into that, Aaron, you can only pick one of the many languages you code in. Which one's your best programming language?
Wait. Best language or favorite language? That's not the same question.
Which one is the best?
The best language I've used in recent times is probably Go, but I don't use it very often. I work in web.
Okay, so you're gonna argue for Go, or
Hey.
for Go?
I guess.
All right, and Will, how about you?
It's got to be Python, obviously. Python is just like the best language.
Oh, we gotta love the Python. especially in beginners week. It's great if you never coded before because you don't have to specify types or write tons of code. Python has a great job of doing that for you. Go, I'm not as familiar with, but I'll let Aaron give
You can
us.
tell William works in data because he knows how to use Python.
He's like, I can do the Python stuff.
um,
Absolutely. It's such a great tool for data, too. I am arguing on one side and I am supposed to be neutral. So,
yep.
Aaron, take us away.
All right. I will be totally honest. I prepped for JavaScript, but I'll improvise Go. It's fine. So Go, for those who haven't dealt with it, is this it's this language that is basically if C and JavaScript had a baby, which means it takes the useful powerfulness of C and compiled languages, um, and the really, really friendly and approachable syntax of JavaScript without all the stupid quirks of JavaScript, and gives you this wonderful language to work in. It's cross-platform, which means you can just use it everywhere, and it just works. It's incredibly fast. I'd say the only like meaningful rivals to it these days are Rust, C, and C++ in terms of performance. I'm sure that is not a accurate statement. There are probably others that are in that tier, but it's like it sits between a lot of like VM languages like Java and like true C level languages. Um, it's it's fully compiled, which is part of where you get all the performance from, but it's also really, really easy to write. It's not object oriented in nature by default, well, at all, technically speaking, but it doesn't really force any paradigms on you in the same way JavaScript doesn't. It just sort of like lets you write what you want to write and executes. It's got cool features like Go routines, which allow you to like do concurrency ish really, really straightforwardly without a lot of overhead. And in general, it's like you can get into it very, very quickly without a whole lot of overhead because of its really straightforward syntax. And it's got a great community around it, which is always a great like benefit for languages. There's my improvised argument for Go.
Not bad. Sounds like a Rosendo moment for Go in the chat. We're getting a little bit of love for Go. Someone thinks Python is overrated. Ooh,
Oof.
that's a great segue into Will.
So, Python, you can literally write Hello World in Python with one line of code. It's that easy to learn as a beginner. But what people often forget about Python is that even though it's super easy to learn and do some very simple things, you can literally build web servers with it. You can literally build machine learning models with it. You can literally like do data science with it. You can build like literally quite possibly anything you can imagine with Python, which makes it so versatile and powerful, yet so simple to pick up and use. The beauty is you don't have to deal with squiggly brackets. No one likes squiggly brackets unless they're dealing with dictionaries. None of this having to like do all of this messy stuff. Like, are you one of those people that has to like when you're writing your JavaScript or your Java and you're like, do I put my squiggly bracket at the end of the function or do I put it on a new line underneath? Like, none of that. You can just indent it all, so it makes it way more readable, way easier to use. And I don't know about you all, but I just dislike capital letters. Lowercase letters are just the best. I love naming everything with lowercase. Camel case and all that makes me feel sick at night every single day. Can you make a blahaj with Python? You sure can, actually. It's actually surprising what you can do with Python. You can analyze blahajes. You can build a website for your blahaj, you know. That is the beauty of it. And the best bit is, like I've built Discord bots with it. I've built websites. I've written rubbish scripts that can help me chew through a CSV file. That's the best bit. It kind of can do whatever you like it to. And you can get it to talk to other things too fairly easily. And all it takes is a computer that can interpret Python. So it's super easy to run in the web browser. It's super easy to run on practically any OS, which isn't the same for every language. Cough, cough, looking at you, Ruby. So yeah, that's my argument for Python. Think it's fantastic, super easy to run. And yeah, it's super easy to get help for it as well. That's another thing to consider about language. Some languages can be really powerful, but they're confusing as hell. So actually, like, you learn. There's no documentation. The guides don't exist. I had this when I was learning Kotlin, whereas with Python, plenty of resources.
Very hot takes indeed.
That
So we
makes
just
sense.
got some passionate views on both sides. I
A little
think
bit of bashing at Ruby on the side there as well. For
I'm
good
all
measure.
for it. Bash Ruby. It's all good.
we had some dissent in the chat. Some people sharing some very strong views about why
Wow,
neither
straight
one is
into
great.
we're getting to go. We're getting to go. Have you
Ooh,
voted, Aaron?
I have voted.
Okay.
ooh, self-voting does
I'm
no
voting
good.
too. Does kind of break the whole point of the poll, but doesn't matter.
I mean, presumably we're voting for the side we argued, right?
I voted for Go, actually. No, I'm joking.
Give you a pity vote.
Mobile dev in Python. You can write a backend server that talks to your mobile app in Python.
See, you can build dependencies for your mobile applications in Go. Yeah, I don't think you can actually build UI for mobile apps in Go. You'd probably no, there actually is a thing for it, but you'd struggle generally.
You don't just code in Swift like everyone else.
Ooh,
Swift's a gorgeous language.
Swift is also not what you make an Android app with. You'd have to
No.
use Java or Kotlin. I mean, you could also do the whole React Native route or Flutter and build Dart. Oh, I do love a good bit of Dart. What a nice language.
Oh, I hate Dart.
Ooh.
I like really hate Dart.
Spicy take.
Ruby is not a real programming. Ooh,
I know, that is spicy.
don't worry. We'll get into what's
you.
a real programming language and what's not in a second. But I think Master William has secured that point, taking him to a
Winning.
2-point lead against Aaron's 1. So it's
No, it's a
2-1,
1
just
point
like
lead.
a normal football game. If you count the World Cup final, this is just when France decided to start playing and scored that first goal and made it 2-1. We all know what happens next. If history repeats itself, then this must be Aaron's round. And the next round is, should you use REST or GraphQL? What is that? Anyways, what's REST? Is that like when you take a nap or something?
Sure.
GraphQL, like the graph paper from math class, geometry stuff.
Yeah, XY axis and all that, right? Yeah, plotting data. It's GraphQL is what data scientists use, right?
Ooh.
Oof. That's
All right. So someone said REST API. What's API mean? What are all these acronyms?
API
needs
application programming interface is a way for a piece of software to talk to another piece of software. Is the most
Okay, so that's
simple
the
explanation.
context we needed.
REST just stands for restful, which is not any more useful.
I thought it was representational state transfer.
And that could also be it. I've heard both.
I would like to pause for a second because someone has asked an interesting question. People argue on the internet that Rust will take over JavaScript. Is that true? Now, obviously, I can't speak the future, but they do kind of do different things. Like, will Rust take over like C or like Java or like something more systemy? Maybe. But Aaron, you're more of an expert here. I don't think this is something that will happen in the immediate future.
I think if Rust is going to replace anything, it's more likely to replace C++ than anything. I don't think it'll replace C. I think C is too universal, but it could in the long run replace C++. But it's too low level of a language to meaningfully replace things like Java. I think there's just having to like it's technically garbage collected ish, not really, right? Which is where you're going to struggle competing with Java or Go or like Swift and stuff. In terms of what you're asking, you're probably referring to is Rust with WASM going to take over JavaScript, and at least in the current horizon with web, the answer is pretty clearly no. WASM can do a lot, but still needs JavaScript to support itself. It's not going to replace the DOM and DOM interaction directly anytime soon. It could very well eventually, but I don't see it happening.
Well, thank you for sharing, Aaron. Hopefully that's insightful to those who are curious. But shall we jump
WASM
into...
is WebAssembly.
WASM. Shall we jump into round 4?
There we
Shall
go.
jump in. So, Aaron, since you are waiting to score that equalizer goal, take us away.
Am I going first again? All right. GraphQL is newer than REST, and which some would argue right out the gate gives it a pretty strong advantage. So the strong benefits of GraphQL are deep rooted in its flexibility, right? If I need to query a RESTful service, I have to do, I potentially have to do dozens of requests. I want to get a user and I want to get their like event bookings and their like SSH keys, GitHub API, for instance, right? And other information about them. I now have to do like 2, 3, maybe even 4 requests to the server with REST. With GraphQL, I just say I want a user and I want these properties on it, and the backend deals with it. It might have multiple queries in the backend, the database. That's very common. But for me as an end consumer, I just get what I want right out the gate. I can, if you're one like me and you really like typed languages and typed interfaces, GraphQL is an inherently typed tool. And as a result, you're going to have much better developer experience downstream with less work around implementing RESTful APIs. Additionally, GraphQL is really straightforward to implement. Lots of like great tools like Apollo and like GoQL and stuff that are really great for defining your GraphQL resolvers in the backend. Essentially, what you're doing is you're mapping types and fields and stuff like that to your database interfaces, and it sort of just does all the magic for you. Whereas with REST, there's a lot more legwork to on the ground to actually transform data you want to send to the user. It's just more flexible, is the honest take, and as a result, it's definitely the superior tool in like 90% of cases.
Oof.
Wow.
That's rough to follow from, Will, but I'll let you explain REST for us.
So Aaron has just spent ages telling us why GraphQL is amazing, but the key thing they've kind of not mentioned is the fact that it's quite overkill if you do only need to make a couple queries. If you just want to quickly ask a server like, yo, can you just tell me this person's name? I have their email. Okay, thanks. It will go, I got you. Super easy, super efficient, super clean and simple. GraphQL, way more bloated, way more confusing when you really just wanted to make a simple request just to get that one little bit of data. Especially because REST, you might not be necessarily sending data. You're just telling the server to do things like, yo, do this thing now because someone clicked a button, give me the response. And there's not lots to query. You don't always have to query hundreds of things at the same time. And so it can be a little bit bloated and a little bit kind of difficult to work with, whereas REST is just so much easier. REST has been around for way longer, which means there's so much more documentation on how to use it. If you go to YouTube and search how to use a REST API, you will find 100 different things. There are loads of different ways to do it in Python, for example, on a web server. You can use Flask, you can use requests, you can use Django, Fast API, you name it. They all support REST, whereas GraphQL is still kind of a new and upcoming thing, which means that you might run into some kind of like walls where maybe GraphQL isn't supported or the documentation isn't fantastic, and so on. Apparently my view is very aggressive. That's how passionate I feel about this. GraphQL is just ain't it. Whew.
All right. I could feel my computer warming up with all these hot takes. Let's take it to the polls and let the audience decide who made the more compelling argument.
REST or GraphQL? That is the question.
GraphQL is coming in.
Taking a quick lead.
Oh, it's tied.
Wow, it's almost like Aaron can vote really quickly.
Oh my god, what? Who would have guessed?
What? Wow.
GraphQL is taking
it's
over.
pretty equal, to be honest. Wow. Who's going to help us decide?
I think this might agree pretty comfortably with I think the practical take, right, is that they both have applicable use cases. GraphQL's got more of them, but
that was close. That was really close. But I think our victor is emerging here. Let's give it one more second. Any takers? Ooh, all right.
That poll's gone.
REST it is.
All done well. I'm looking at time. There's no way we're going to get through all of our topics. Do we want to put a poll up for which ones we should do?
I like that.
Oh,
So in that case, let's jump into the next one, and then I will put up a poll for the following options after that, whilst you let Will
all right,
start.
all right. So, relational database, the database type that works in tables and relationships between those tables. You would remember things like SQL databases. For the SQL fans in the room, this is my time to shine because now we're talking about data. Yay, me. I'm just kidding. Um, Document database, a relatively newer concept where you have object oriented objects in usually flat files such as JSON objects, what have you, that make it a little bit easier to find specific fields, but are a lot less common in the marketplace. Uh, without me telling you which one is my favorite, I'm going to let Will tell you which one is his favorite.
So, document databases, they're just the future. Everything about them makes so much more sense, so much easier to like view it. I am a big fan. Examples of this could include using Firebase Firestore or their own real-time databases feature, where you can super easily just have everything laid out in a kind of document or in dictionary sort of format. A JSON in like a JSON/JavaScript object would be a kind of similar sort of concept as well. But it just makes so much sense. If you want to have like a list of all your users, boom, you can have a document which then contains each user basically as a list with all of their attributes in them, and it makes it super easy. You don't have to worry about relational databases where you've got to make sure there's like primary keys and how your tables all link together and all of that kind of stuff, because everything is just nested within each other. So it makes it super easy to find that. It also makes it really fast because you can easily jump between all the documents and stuff. It's just super nice. And there's nothing worse about having to set up a relational database and having to like work out how to write SQL and all that kind of stuff, when you can just query your document super easy, being like, I want to access this dictionary and this one, just like you would for a Python dictionary. Super easy. There you go.
All right. So we're hearing
Document
some
databases.
conversation about efficiency,
So
about how you store
before
your
I
relations.
before I
Aaron,
jump in, there was a poll up. It made me like truncate all of debate topics because like the list they're all too long. I yet to use an acronym for one of them. OOP is object oriented programming. But yeah, go and vote. That'll be up for another like minute and a half or 2 minutes or something while we finish this round.
Windows versus Mac is pretty high up at the moment.
All
Aaron,
right.
you want to put the poll results up on the screen?
Uh, sure. Um,
Ooh,
and I will debate for relational databases while we wait for these to come in. So Will made a bunch of really strong points. Document databases are really accessible. However, in practical terms, is anything data is naturally relational, right? If you're building an application, you have users, you have actions they've taken, you have permissions, you've got data around various forms of ingest, and they all relate to each other, right? Could be comments to a user, comments to a video, right? And having these tight relationships between them is really useful and actually makes relational databases more performant. When you um when you are querying your database, we've got these things called joins and indexes, which I'm sure databases have their own form of, well, indexes, not necessarily joins, right? But that means you can get lots of different pieces of data much more efficiently and with much less difficulty than you would otherwise than in a document database. Moreover, you're probably quite used to dealing with relational data in its own forms when you've dealt with things like Excel in the past. It's a very primitive form of relational database ish, right? Especially if you're, having values related to each other in there. Like there's a reason that in the developer world, we went from always using relational databases back in the day to having this like big hype of Mongo and its document database peers over the like early 2010s. And businesses are coming back pretty hard to relational databases because they clearly decide that they're the way to go. We got big, massive behemoths like Redshift for a reason. And there's my argument for relational databases as this poll wraps up.
all right. So we got some efficiency arguments on both sides. You got some storage space arguments. You got some ease of use arguments. So we got room for about 2 more debate topics. So I think based on the poll, it's debugger versus print statements and OOP versus functional programming. But before that, let's put this poll aside, and we can then head over to vote on if we should use relational or document database.
All right. Relational and document. This poll will go for 1 minute. There we go. Mm-hmm.
How on earth did we get 69 votes?
Oh, I allowed people to vote multiple times on that one because it's like let them push up topics if they want to.
I see.
But I did note that it did say someone used 6,800 points, and one of them won by like 69 to the rest, and I think they voted for that thing 69 times. Confirmed. But hey, document databases are not doing well.
Oh no, there's no one like document? Hey, we got some pity votes for document.
I'm not very good at this.
You're winning. Right? Yeah, you're winning.
Yeah, it's 3-2 if Aaron takes home this one. You never know. There might be a late charge in the second half.
There we go.
Ooh. All right.
All
So
right.
that brings us at 3-2. We have 2 more questions to go. So if we run some scenarios here, Aaron technically has a chance to win the next 2 and take it home.
Yeah.
Our friend Master William here only needs to win 1 round. So it's like sudden death penalty shootouts.
We're doing functional versus object-oriented, right?
Yes.
All right. Not that one, but that one. No.
We're doing print statements, right?
Print statements and functional versus OOP.
There you go. There's bugger and print statements.
All right. So your code is broken. It's 11 o'clock. Your project is due at midnight.
What?
You're getting a very unhelpful error
Sounds
message.
like a toxic work environment. Having things due at midnight. Oh wait, that's university. Never mind.
It's uni. Like that's how we do it. We get that buzzer beater at 11:59 before Turnitin starts running and tells me that I have plagiarism in my code. That's how it always works. Anyways, back to the debate. So do you use a debugger that comes built in? So you have to set breakpoints in your code and then wait for the program to compile and run. And then at that breakpoint, you then check the values of random variables and see where your code is going wrong? Or do you take the more simple approach where you print here and it's here and found it in random places of your code and have your website display your first name in several different places?
That sounds a bit biased.
This could be a very close one because there's very hot arguments on both sides, but I'll let our reigning champion Will start us off.
So, who even knows what a debugger is? Has anyone actually tried using one? Aaron? Shush. Like, what's the point? They're all different. Every IDE and text editor, they always go, yeah, just use our debugger, and it's confusing as hell. There's nothing simpler than just sticking a cheeky little print statement in between 2 lines, putting a variable in there. If you're in Python, you could do a little bit of formatting quite easily with an F string and just, put your variable in there and just say what it is, and boom, you can immediately see when that line of code has been run. Super easy to get the answer, and you could end up spending longer. It's like the whole saying when developers spend I could do this one simple task manually, or I could spend 6 months automating it when it took me 2 minutes to do myself. Was it worth that 6 months to automate? Probably not, but developers love that. And that's exactly what the case is here with debuggers. There is, spend 6 months learning and configuring it just so you can debug that 2 lines of code that you could have done in about 10 minutes with a print statement. I think not. So, yeah, there's nothing hurts. And then the best bit is you just do a cheeky little Control F, print, and you can remove all your print lines super easy. You can comment them out super easily. It is just that easy. And you can put whatever you like in them. It's very simple. It works in every programming language for the most part. What is there not to like?
Oof. Will bringing back Python to the fight again. Staying true to your beliefs. We love to see it.
You can do it in JavaScript too. JavaScript works just as well. Java as well. I've done it in all of them. It is great.
Yeah, it all depends on the different language. Is it console.log? Is it print? Is it system.out.println? We'll leave it to Aaron to tell us why all of those things are a bad idea.
They are a bad idea. They're a really bad idea. Have you ever been doing a code review and you're like, why are there all these console logs commented out in this code? Like, reject, go and remove those. There's no good point for them. Or you access a website, you've got these erroneous here's in the console if you click F12, right? That happens all the time. And it's caught me out in the past, which is why I'm definitely strongly on Team Debugger, right? Will has hit us started us off strong with a nice myth that they're really different and really hard to use. Even in VS Code, if you're using JavaScript or Python or even C of all languages, right out of the gate, it can support those for you. C is a bit less straightforward on VS Code. You might want to use a more built out IDE for that, right? But if you actually hit run in VS Code, that button you've probably never touched, it will just, with JavaScript, boot up Chrome or Python, just use its debugger right out the gate, right? And also, all these debuggers are actually very, very similar. You put a breakpoint on the line. You've probably done them by accident and not even realize what you were doing, and it just stops your execution in line when it's running and lets you evaluate all these comments. In a really cool feature of interpreted languages like JavaScript and Python and Ruby, for example, is when you're in the debugger, you can even like execute code on the values that are being that are paused, right? So if I want to check other values or mutate them for some reason, right, because you want to see what something's going to equal further down, you can just do that in a console in line and see how things are going, right? In other debuggers, you can constantly monitor values of different variables instead of having, doing the same thing Will was saying doing, but instead of having to introduce all these console logs everywhere, they're just in a list on the side of your IDE, right? Functionally, all of these debuggers are generally the same. When you're in compiled languages, it's way faster than having to recompile your code every single time. Yeah, Team Debugger, 1000%.
All right. We're getting some statistically accurate percentages here to tell us why the debugger is correct. We're getting some very ease of use arguments on why print statements is just faster and simpler. We're getting some functional arguments for the debugger side. So let's let the audience tell us. Remember, Will only has to win one more round to take it home. And he's starting off strong.
A strong start.
By voting for himself, yes.
I haven't voted yet.
Hey, 2 for debugger.
Oh, it's neck and neck.
It's neck and neck. Come on, folks. You know the debugger is obviously the better choice.
Oh, and
it's how you land that Google job.
This is Argentina.
You know how to use
France is taking the lead.
Help me win, everyone. Oh, no.
We got a late goal from Lionel Messi here.
Please make the sensible choice, Devs. Yeah, just use the debugger.
What happens if we get a draw, William?
Oh,
don't worry. Doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Still got 15 seconds. Come on, folks. You know the debugger is the way to go. You really do. I don't want to live in a future.
Some hot debate in the comments too.
Aaron, if I win, you have to stop using a debugger.
Oh, it's time. It's time. Oh, it's time. Ooh. All right. So that round doesn't count because no one gets the point.
That means best case, we ended a tie.
So best case scenario, you end in a tie. So Aaron, it's all you. This is your moment to beat Kylian Mbappe, scoring that last-minute penalty, breaking Argentina's hearts and sending us all into penalty shootouts. And
wait, didn't Argentina win?
Argentina won on the penalties, but their hearts were broken at that last-minute penalty, though.
Yeah.
All right. So
what are we doing next?
The next one is functional versus object-oriented program.
Here we go, round 7. All right. Did
All
we
right.
say I'm on team functional?
All right.
Yeah.
Final round.
I
Yeah,
could
you
talk
can
about
pick whatever
functional, but it's
side
been
you
a
want.
while.
This is anything goes in the last round. Aaron, since you are the laggard here, you can pick whichever side you think is gonna win the audience
Oh,
and
I think
draw us
functional's
level,
gonna
or
win.
you can pick the side you're most passionate about.
I'm gonna do functional. I'm both most passionate about it. I think it's the better choice.
All right, functional it is. Take us home, Aaron.
Oh.
So earlier on, when Will was talking about how Python, you can just write a function and or write a function like or execute a function in line, it just works. That's technically functional programming right there, right? Functional is across the board a lot lighter lift, and frankly, much easier to debug when it does break. Object-oriented programming like Java and C++ and stuff are really, really like boilerplate heavy because you gotta like create these classes and these functions and these classes. You have to live within this land of mutation and all this stuff, which is really gross. In functional programming, you put something in, something it comes out, and it always does that. This idea of atomic functions or pure functions. Pure functions, atomic is a different thing. But pure functions means your code is much more straightforward, generally smaller, and a lot easier to understand. Whereas in object-oriented programming, you got to follow these like weirdly nested code paths and like understand how this is mutating that somewhere, and it might be a different result different times because we like initialized things differently. Functional programming doesn't have any of that. You might be worried thinking, oh, I'm to functional programming. It's like OCaml or Haskell or Scala. Those are like very like strict functional programming languages. I'm not arguing for that. That is not how you build software. You build software by taking a more relaxed approach, but using functional as the approach to the way you design your software, right? Having this idea of pure functions, having your code be a lot cleaner, much smaller, and really like much more self-contained. And like you can write functional programming in most languages, including C. You can't in Java though. Like by design, you can't. But as a result, I do think functional programming across the board is the superior paradigm.
Ooh, a very knowledgeable take. Aaron clearly writes functional programming on the weekends.
On weekends, on weekdays, I write it all the time.
All the time, for fun, for work, you name it. So, Master William, the defending champion, all you need to do is win this round with object-oriented languages, and you will have taken it home. You've gotten that nice World Cup trophy to go and have in your bed like Lionel Messi.
Right,
And
I'm
then
getting ready for
take
that
it back,
final penalty.
take it back
Like,
to Argentina and have the whole parade welcome you back home.
right,
Just one
I'm gonna-
penalty kick.
just one.
Let's go.
There's nothing more beautiful than classes and objects. The way they just go hand in hand is gorgeous. Let's say you want to build something, but there's so much to define about it. You can build a class with a subclass with a subclass. It's beautiful. It can inherit things. It cannot inherit things. It's completely up to you. It's beautiful how you can just have everything work like that together. It is magnificent. There's nothing more beautiful than having to create lots of things with lots of different attributes. But don't worry, you don't have to try and like specify it. You can just make a class and make all these objects. You need to make several cars. Cars have a steering wheel. Cars have a bonnet. Cars have a make. It's okay. You can specify these all inside of your class, and then you don't have to worry. And then it means you have nice consistency between all your objects. Everything is lovely in that sense, because then you don't have to remember like, oh, I like this object doesn't have that attribute because like I forgot to add it to the list. Like, and you don't have to remember which order they're in because they all have tags to them. It's beautiful and it just makes sense. Functional is rubbish. I'm just gonna start slamming on functional. Object-oriented programming works in so many different languages, such as Java, C#. You can do it in Python and plenty of other languages as well. And the best bit is they all follow these same kind of rules, which makes it super easy for you to pick up and make. It makes using code where you're using lots of different data structures and helps simplify that by just having an object that you can then store in a list, for example in Python, or you can store it in an array, and that object can hold all of those attributes than you having to juggle them yourself. There you go. What is so wrong? What did I say about I did say some things that were definitely incorrect, but
There you go. Obviously, it's just the worst argument now.
I'm gonna end there.
All right, all right. So we heard a very romantic version of why object-oriented programming is the best. We had a very functional argument on why functional is the best. So, one last poll. This is the last round of our penalty shootout. Take us
Oh,
home.
probably should screen share the poll.
Ooh,
Sweet.
object-oriented with an early lead.
Wow.
Ooh, it's getting tight.
Come on, folks. Y'all know that functional is the way to go.
Polar Void in the chat is really unhappy with me.
Ooh.
Ooh, functionals come back.
Oh, you're getting some love, Will. Don't worry.
I try.
It's getting close.
OOP in JavaScript. OOP in I mean, there are objects in JavaScript, but they're not really like in the same way that you get in like
Ooh.
Java.
And with that,
The champion, the
Lionel Russell
2023
has taken it home. The
Will that make
champions
me-
of the world.
Global Hack Week
Congratulations.
January champion. Let's bring it. Maybe I can defend my title in February against someone else.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Aaron's
Let's
like,
see,
I
let
got
us
the
know
most
in the
unfair
chat.
topics.
If you think Will should debate against
I mean,
CEO
I had
next
to argue light mode. Like,
Yeah, it might be a slight uphill battle, but let's just not go into the details.
I did win tabs somehow, which I was surprised by.
I like this
No.
analogy someone's put. We are no, I don't like the analogy that we are doomed. I meant we are all objects of the human class. Exactly.
time. Absolutely.
Now, is Will wearing white AirPods? Yes, and they keep falling out my ears. But the real question I have for you all before we wrap up is, what would be the parent class of the world? What does everything in the world evolve around? Particles, atoms, probably. But anyway, probably is what it makes sense of. Anyway,
Yeah, 'cause then an object oriented you build out, not down. Yeah, that makes sense.
will object
Multiple.
orientated. Sorry, will orientated programming. Everything
There you
goes
go.
from bottom up.
Bahaj,
Right.
love to see it.
All
On
right,
that
so-
note,
I have a meeting to get to, so and we'll run over.
This has been fun, friends. Just kind reminder that our friends have generously donated their time to give theoretical, hypothetical perspectives. In some of the cases, they have argued in cases for things that they don't necessarily think is the best, but they wanted to give a compelling argument for, just for devil's advocate. And just for kind reminder that this is not MLH telling you that you should write your code in dark mode. If you want to unplug your computer to exit Vim, that is your choice.
Your computer to exit Vim.
And thanks all for joining us today. I hope you guys have fun on all the other fun streams that we have coming up for Global Hack Week January. And catch us next month, where will be going up against our co-founder John in round 2. Great hacker debate.
it is now.
guys.
All right. Thanks so much, folks. Bye bye.